You're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this State of the Show with me. But also, I'm going to introduce you to someone who you might have heard the disembodied voice of in our Facebook videos. You've heard him on some of our Ask a Guides pop in, especially when the subject of the Pennsylvania Reserves comes up. But now you're going to hear him off the cuff in conversation form. He is the great Eric, the producer.
Hello.
Hello, Eric, the producer. How are you?
Oh, I'm making it through, you know.
Yeah, I know.
Kind of crappy weather as of late.
Horrible weather. Well, not horrible. It could be worse.
It could be.
It has been. Someone's got dogs out there.
What the hell?
Jeez. Okay. Anyway, so we're just doing this little State of the Show, and this is actually going on Patreon and on the free feed. In the fall, at the end of the season, we're going to put it on both feeds. Throughout the year, patrons get an end of the show about maybe once a quarter. I don't know, whenever there's something to update them on or whatever, I'll put something out. But anyway, let's start talking about first a recap of this year. And it was a great year for us. It really was. We had our Get Out of the Car tours. Of course, that started off a little shaky because of the lockdown and everything. So April, we didn't have our tour.
Yeah, April and May were kind of a bummer. And then May, we had to do the, we live streamed that on Facebook, didn't we?
We did. We did.
And I had that makeshift monopod that was just a rake handle with like a bicycle cell phone mount clamped to it.
Yeah, and you stuck it in the ground.
Yeah, that was not good. Not good at all.
No, but, it was, hey, people watching at home probably couldn't tell. And then, of course, we got harassed by law enforcement. What are you doing?
It's been like a common theme this year.
Yeah, I know. And the funny thing is, like, I think she thought that it was like something about that broom handle monopod you made her think it was like a professional commercial shoot or something. I
don't know how anybody could have mistaken that for anything professional.
Either. But anyway, that was how we started off in April and May, and then finally things opened up again. And I mean, anecdotally, Gettysburg seemed to have been hopping this year, and I can't help but think that shutdown helped us in a way, in an odd way.
Yeah, I think it kind of did, especially once like the surrounding states started to lift their restrictions a little bit too. We ended up getting, I think, a ton of people from like DC, New York, New Jersey. Yeah,
and a couple of other horrible things in those cities also helped bring the rich out. At least the rich, we've met a lot of people with a lot of money that have houses out in the region out here, up in the mountains or something, and
on the golf courses.
Yes, and so they fled. They took their summer vacations early, and you could work from home and all that jazz. But anyway, the tours went really well for us. When we started them last year, I think the first tour we had was, I want to say 7 people and one guy who just started following us around and then disappeared. He disappeared like midway through the tour.
The phantom tour taker.
Yeah, and none of us saw him leave. We don't know what happened with that.
Had a ghost.
But he, what was I going to say now about that? Oh yeah. So he was, on that tour, but anyway, so it was a small tour. And then, the next one, maybe we had 12 people. I think the highest number of people that we had in our first year was 15. Then 2020 comes around with all of its issues and stuff. And the first tour we had was in June. The first live tour we had was in June. We had 36 people on that one. And I said, wow, that's a fluke. Because we had people from Minnesota, from a guy came up from Texas. He actually had to leave the night before because something happened and he had to fly home early. But he came up anyway for the tour, and that was Kevin. And people from Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, all over the place. Virginia, I think there were some people from Virginia. Came out for that tour, and I said, well, that's just because everybody is sick of being locked up. You know, next month we're going to go back down to 10 or 12. And the next month we only lost about 10. We had 25. That was July. It was 900 degrees. Yeah. People go on vacation in July. They have them planned for a long time, and they're not necessarily to Gettysburg. So still, that was a good number. And I was certainly happy with it. And then it went up again in August, and it went up again in September. And finally, October came along, and we almost doubled our average of 35.
Yeah, what I tell you, it was like 63.
63 was the number. And part of that, I'm sure, has to do with the fact that we were shooting for the Today Show. But we'll get to that in a little bit. The other thing is our numbers on the free feed and Patreon have all gone up. Mm-hmm. And we thank you all for that. Even in the months when we don't put out a lot, or we don't put out anything. Well, we haven't had a month where we don't put out anything on the free feed. We've had a couple of those on Patreon, and I'll get to why that is in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, even in all those times, still the numbers go up, and that's a great thing. And we've been hearing a lot of great stuff from our listeners, new and old, and we really appreciate all of that. What was the first? Oh, so yeah, so the big thing. Well, first, I guess let me explain that, why that is. So when we started, let's start with Patreon first. When we started Patreon, it was in December of last year. I knew basically for about a year and a half or so before that, when I first decided I was going to do this, I knew that we were going to have a Patreon account because I wanted to, a couple of reasons. One is I wanted to devote a lot of my time to this, and that requires that I have to, pay my bills somehow, Yeah. Also, I wanted to put on things like our free tours, and that requires money in order to do that. It's free for you.
It's definitely not free for us.
No, it is not.
We shell out quite a bit of change for every single one of those tours.
Yeah. Now, and let me just say, I'm not saying that as a condemnation of anybody that puts on tours and charges for it, because I mean, I'm all for people making a living, and honestly, I don't see, because you hear people say, well, you're not a licensed guide, and it's like, well, no, that's why I'm hiring a licensed guide.
Yeah, exactly. That's what all of our fees go to is hiring a guide for all of those. And this year it was nice because we just had Lewis.
Yeah.
For every one of them. But I mean, I don't personally begrudge anybody who wants to go out and make a buck.
No.
And I mean, that's kind of what the guides exist for, is to go out and make money.
And, as far as I know, food isn't free, and your mortgage and your rent and your electric and your gas, those aren't free, and gas for your car and everything like that. And so one of the things with free entertainment is that somehow the money has to be made. And because it like anything, how they say there's no such thing as a free lunch. There really isn't. It's free to you, but somebody is paying.
Yeah.
So that's the deal with that. So you know what, because you hear this talk about other people that have put on tours and stuff, and they charge $20 or $30 a head, and then some people go, oh, just another person trying to line their pockets with money, off of Gettysburg and stuff, and it's just funny because those are the very people that have no problem with guides charging money for tours or for books or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, the last time I checked, that's been going on here for, since right after the battle. So,
and it was like codified in federal law that you can charge to do a tour, for example, but you have to have a license from the park. Yeah. So, I mean, when those very people that criticize someone else for putting together a tour and charging money do the same thing for like maybe criticizing someone for writing a book and charging money for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. But anyway, that was a tangent that was really unnecessary, but it was just something that recently came up and it really annoys me.
We do that a lot.
Yeah. So why does it, why are there those slowdowns and stuff? So when I started Patreon back in December, at that time, I had just gotten laid off from a job. So I was like, well, now's as good a time as any. And because I had planned ahead that we were going to do this, when I moved down here in 2018, I immediately started recording interviews with people to use when I launched Patreon, so that right then and there, there's boom, at least 10 or 12 episodes that you can listen to, which will buy me some time. So we did that, and during the winter and then subsequently the shutdown, there was plenty of time to record things. All we had was time, or all I had was time. And then, during the shutdown, all anybody had was time and worry. Then the season starts, and we lost our studio because of the shutdown and everything like that. And so we had it, luckily the weather was changing at that point. So we're like, well, let's take it outdoors for the summer until we find another place. And that's what we did. The problem is that as summer goes on, everybody here in Gettysburg that we would have on the show is very busy.
Yeah, things got out of hand kind of quick. Like once they opened us back up, it exploded here.
Yeah.
And nobody was available for anything.
No. And so things looked like, they were picking up and everything like that. And everybody suddenly became busy. That includes us. That includes guides. That includes rangers. It includes everybody that we would normally have on the show. Also, with rangers, a lot of them were teleworking for a period of time.
Yeah, quite a few of them. And
it just threw a wrench in the gears of everybody's lives, as you know, because you lived through it too. So we had, as the summer wore on, it just became harder and harder to keep up with the scheduling. And, this was something that I had a fear that would happen when I started Patreon back in the winter, because I knew that things would get busy for everybody, even if the shutdown hadn't happened, because that wasn't even a thing. It was like, furthest thing from anybody's mind that they would do something like that to us. So, when just normal summer stuff would make it harder to keep up with a regular schedule. So for you patrons out there, some people had actually canceled their Patreon because they said that they thought that we would be more active than we were. And that's when I knew, it was like, you got to listen to your gut when you do things, because in the beginning, my gut said, this is going to happen if you commit to, I think it was 4 shows, at least 4 shows a month for the second lieutenant level, and then 2 a month for the one below that.
Yeah, it's like we could pull that off when we had a backlog of stuff from what you had previously recorded before it even launched.
Right.
And then, the first few months of the year, we were able to, make up that difference with new interviews. But like, what was it, June, July, it just kind of dropped off because nobody was available to do anything.
Right. And that includes, us sometimes too. It's just, it was hard to mesh the schedules. So what I went in and did was I recognized, before we actually lost anybody because of that, I recognized that it's a potential thing that was going to happen. And so I went in and I made a post on Patreon and I said, hey, here's the situation. So I'm going to modify the tier descriptions to come up with something a little more realistic, because now we had almost a full year under our belt, and we know, and the thing with here living in a tourist town is things are going to, they repeat. It's all cyclical, right?
Very much so.
So the tiers were modified, and you can go to Patreon and check those out and see how they're worded now and everything like that. So yeah, so that was that. And then also with the free stuff, I'm still, as you know, because part 3 of episode 2 of the narratives came out a couple of weeks ago. I think, was it a week ago or 2 weeks ago? And I was working on that all along, while also we're trying to get these other things going, and life is just going on anyway. So there's always something going on. And this was the other thing too that also led to a slowdown, was the end of the summer was coming, and let's see, that's one thing we'll never be able to protect against, our buses.
Yeah, once we get that door,
that'll help a bit, but
insulated and weather stripping around it, that'll cut down a lot.
A touch. And another thing that kind of contributed to a slowdown was the fact that the summer was coming to an end, fall was on the horizon, which means winter's not far behind, and we can't keep recording outside.
No.
So then the thing became, well, let's start focusing our energies on finding an indoor studio for the winter. And we looked and there were certainly places that we could have rented, but as far as income generated by the show, we're not at that point yet.
No.
The first thing we have to do is free ourselves to be able to devote full time to this and nothing else. And when that happens, then we can worry about rent or something other than that. Well, what do we do? And then luckily, Jake at Getty's Bike Tours said, he's like, well, listen, the office shed that we use is, we don't need all the space for
underutilized. Yeah,
it's underutilized. There's plenty more space that we could have used. He's like, let's rearrange it, and you can put your studio in there. And so that's where we are now. It's not totally finished yet. We have some sound treatments to do and things like that, but we wanted to record a state of the show for you guys, before anything else. So this is a temporary fix. We do need to get into a more livable.
Yeah, just a bigger space in general.
Yeah.
I mean, this is great because it's, free more or less.
Right. And it's indoors.
Yeah. But it has taken us quite a bit of time to get to where we are because it all needed to be drywalled. It all needed to be painted. I had to build this table from nothing. I mean, it's taken quite a bit of energy.
Yeah.
And so that's why, like, in my mind anyways, over the last month and a half, we've had a massive drop off in content production, but that's because we've had to put all of our extra time and energy into making this at least temporarily livable for us to continue to actually produce stuff through the winter. Because like right now, what is it, like 45 degrees today?
Yeah.
Maybe 50.
Yeah.
And it's not going to get any warmer.
No, it's
not in a good place to be able to do outdoor production all year round. It was great. We could do it all summer, but now we absolutely can't.
Right. And so we have to move it now. So we do have plans to expand. And also the other thing is too, we're sharing this space with Getty's Bike for Getty's Bike purposes.
Yeah.
And when the summer comes on, and then the big thing I found out, this was another thing for the slowdown. My health was in question for a while because I had this sore throat that never really went away. And I was just lethargic all the time. I could never get energy no matter what I did. And I was not feeling very well. And like when you would call me and say, or text me and say, hey, I'm going out to do a sunset video or something, right? And I would come out. I was already in bed for the day. Like I was in bed. I was laying there in my air conditioner trying, I thought I was just down with the heat and all this stuff. But I would pull myself up by the scruff of my neck to go out and do it because I was like, well, if I don't participate in these things, I'm going to lose my brand. Like it's, I'm not going to be the name and the face associated with the thing I created. So I would go, but the minute we were done, I always was ready to just go back home and go to bed.
Yeah.
And later it turned out that basically, so for those of you who've never been to Gettysburg, everything here is we have sheds. We have 3 sheds, and we're in the visitor center parking lot, and that's the bus lot at the visitor center, and that's where we operate out of. And right behind the office shed is basically a salad of everything I'm allergic to. Except that I didn't know I had allergies, because I never had allergies. Now, maybe, seasonal allergy when the pollen is high in the early spring, but, a couple of weeks of Claritin every day, and then I'm fine, and there's no problem anymore. But this was something different. It was something that I was exposed to every day volunteering for Gettysburg, and I started to notice that when I would go home for the weekend and not come back here, by Sunday night, all of my symptoms would go away. And then a friend of mine said, well, maybe you're allergic to something. And it just never occurred to me. And so that was another thing. It was like the way my body felt and what my body was telling me to do, which was nothing, stay in bed all day. The fact that I was able to get anything done during the summer show-wise, to me, is a miracle, because I did not feel well at all.
Matt was literally allergic to work. The one guy in a million who's actually allergic to his work.
Right. And it's not being funny. Like, I'm actually allergic to my work. So that was another big factor in the slowdown and everything. But I went and I got allergy tests. I found out what it is I'm allergic to. I found out that it was allergies. And of course, and I'm not making light of this, but I'm not a hypochondriac, but everything that happens out of the ordinary for me, every pain, every bump, every new freckle or whatever, is cancer. It's just my biggest fear. And so, and I also never really get sick. I haven't had a cold in almost 2 years. I just don't get sick. And so when anything feels out of sorts, it's a terminal disease in my mind. So that was, once I got, allergy tests and found out, no, you're allergic to everything. And then she showed me pictures of what all the different weeds and things were. And I go, oh, they're in my garden right behind the office at Gettysburg. So, well, I don't know what I'm going to do about that next year, but we'll see. But now that the seasons are changing, those allergens are not bothering me anymore, and we can make this work. But that, and the fact that this is going to be used for Gettysburg purposes, it gets up to like 110, 120 degrees sitting on the blacktop of this parking lot all summer long, that we'd have to run the air conditioner all the time doing shows in here, and that's just going to sound horrible. We do have to move on to a space before spring starts. That's more.
We never gave up looking for a new place, a permanent place. But I mean, like I said, the last month and a half, we've had to massively alter the space that we're in right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it was everything from wiring to drywall to paint to
table.
Yep.
Tearing out the old
furniture,
walls.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot that had to be done. So anyway, thanks to Gettysburg Tours for that. And thanks to all of you for coming out on our Get Out of the Car tours this season, and for listening to the show. Those of you who have stumbled upon it and found it and liked it, thank you for doing it. And please like and share. We don't say this enough, but one thing that you can do that'll help this grow is leave a 5-star review if you have the Apple Podcast or any podcast app that you use that allows reviews. Please leave a good one. If you leave a bad one, we're going to hunt you down. And just things like that. Tell your friends about it. Make your friends listen to it. Hold them down. Tie them to a chair if you have to. Make them listen to it, because we want to prove to everybody that history is not boring, and we think that this is one way to do it. And then maybe they won't think you're such a nerd anymore. They'll be like, oh, this guy's not so bad. He's got some good taste in podcasts. Okay. Oh, Today's Show. So then that was the other thing. Today's Show. So that came about because, and I released uploads about this, telling the story, so I'm not going to get too much into it. But one of our listeners, Dina, She's down in Miami, and she is a publicist. So she has the connections and the skills to do what she did, and that is get us on the Today Show. We didn't hire her. She kind of did it out of her own, the goodness of her own heart. She likes what we've done. She got interested in this stuff because she stumbled upon us on Instagram a year or two ago. I guess this was her way of paying us back or saying thank you or whatever. But we recorded on October 17th. Was it? Yeah. No, October 15th.
Yeah, we recorded on the 15th, like our individual interviews. And then the 17th, we did the whole tour thing for them. And
so for the first part of October, we were basically building the studio. And I was pooping bricks because as I got closer to the date, at first I wasn't nervous, and then it got closer to the date and I became more and more nervous. Not so much about the actual production of the Today Show, but more about, look, let's be honest, people, okay? I know how people are around here.
It's really unfortunate too, because, we could all basically pull each other up.
Yeah.
And become a lot more popular here than we would otherwise be on our own, but a lot of people just don't want to work together. I don't know if it's greed for publicity.
Greed for what?
It is, but I don't know, right?
Yeah.
Clearly, I'm not greedy for money because I'm not making any here.
Yet. No, I think it's more insecurities and things like that cause people to not want to work together.
That's fair. Yeah.
But anyway, lost my train of thought again. Oh, yeah. So, I was all worried about that and all that. And I just worry about things that are, just I get these ideas in my head and then I start to worry about it. And then, I realize I'm an idiot. So we did the shoots. It was all done virtually. It was all done over Zoom.
Yeah.
And it's not really about addressing Gettysburg.
No.
It was about great looking podcasters. No, it was about
we were the ugly comparison.
Yeah, they're like, you got this guy, you have Adam Curry over here, and Matt.
You got a scale of addressing Gettysburg to 10, and we're definitely on the low end of the scale.
We're at 0. No, it was about people who forged friendships during the lockdown. And in real life. And during the lockdown, someone gave me the idea to do like Zoom chats or whatever. Yeah. And I said, yeah, that's a good idea. It'll keep us sane. It'll give us something to look forward to each week. So I put the word out on Instagram and I said, hey, do you want to be a part of this? If you do, send me a message. And then we started a chat group and we started doing these Zoom chats. First, I think it started once a week. Then we extended it to twice a week.
Yeah, we were doing them like every Sunday and Wednesday.
Yes. And we would do things like have trivia game show type things with me and Pat McGuire from the History Things podcast as the hosts. And we would have, contestants from our group. I think it would be 3 people, and then we'd narrow it down to 1. And then we even had prizes, gift certificates to Victorian Photography Studio, things like that. And it was kind of just a dry run of one of the things that we want to do when we start doing a live show. We want to make it a little more entertaining. It's not a history-based, well, it's history-based, but it's not strictly history, this particular live show. It's not like anything we're doing now. So it actually would feel more like this, just a conversation, but we would have guests on who are doing things today in Gettysburg, regardless of what the field is, that whether it's they're a restaurateur or a historian or a festival or whatever it is. But we're always going to have one foot in history on that. And that's where the game shows and things would come in. And, you have little things like this. And I go,
oh my God, I hate that so much. I hate
that's part of the reason why
little buttons there.
Yeah, well, so someone would get the answer wrong, and I would go, sorry.
the bane of my existence.
Or, I would make a corny joke and I'd go, and it was all corny. And the whole point is to be corny. You understand? That's the joke.
Oh, no, I get it.
Okay. I was talking to the audience.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, so we did those things, and then some of us have become friends offline in real life through either phone calls or just private, DMs or something on Instagram or whatever. And some of us have met in person, and that's what the Today Show wanted to do a show about. But I mean, we definitely talk. I mean, I did a private interview, a one-on-one interview with the correspondent, Donna Farazan. How do you say that?
Farazan, I think.
Farazan.
I think so.
Oh, sorry, really Donna, remember. If you're listening. Yes, but anyway, she and I did a one-on-one for about 45 minutes, and that was nice. She was very easy to talk to, and I was a little nervous at first, but then I pretty much loosened up, and then I became.
You came over to my house like white as a sheet, like, oh my God, I don't know what's going to happen.
Well, I was more nervous. I was more nervous about the technology crapping out on me or something. Yeah. Like if there was like a bad connection, and then it was all choppy, and they couldn't do it, and I just didn't want to, ruin things. And then after I was done, then me and Donnie from American Civil War _IG on Instagram. Dina and Karen out from Minnesota, the four of us were interviewed with Donna or by Donna about becoming friends in real life, offline or whatever. And then Eric and Pat McGuire, who became friends through one of our tours. Basically, your wives forced you to become friends.
Yeah, well, I mean, Pat and I had been talking basically offline at the end of those Google Meets that we were doing. And then he came to the June tour with Danielle, and I'm super antisocial. So Katie and I had commandeered our own picnic table off to the side, out of the way of everybody else. And that happened to be like the only place that had available seats. So Pat and Danielle ended up, they sat down at our table, and Danielle and Katie really hit it off. Mm-hmm. And the next thing I knew, I was being told that there were weekend plans to go hang out. I was like, okay, cool. And Pat hit me up. He was like, hey, did you know we're going to the lake this weekend? I was, no, but I guess we are.
But Pat's a fun guy to get to know. And so it could have been worse
they're good
for
people. You. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And Danielle's sweet. So, of course, the tour is back now.
Bummer.
But anyway, so the Today Show went great. And so after the interviews were finished, Saturday we had our actual walking tour. We shot B-roll there, which I've seen some of it, and it's really good. I hope they use it. It's a little more cinematic than an NBC morning show would do, but I hope they would use some of it. But at least we're going to also use that footage for a promo video. And then when that tour was over, we did a virtual tour. We had Bob Steenstra, co-host of the show, of course, Jesse Weedleton, who's been on the show before, and Louis Trott, who's done all of our Get Out of the Car tours, and he's been on the show before as well. Yep. And we did a tour of the Bryan Farm. It was just a 10-minute little thing, and I had each of them cover a different aspect of Abraham Bryan and his farm. So Jesse did his pre-battle life. Yeah. Lewis did the life of the farm during the battle, and then Bob Steenstra tearfully, I believe. People really were touched by Bob's part of it. He wasn't tearful. They were. Anyway, he does a heartstring tugger at the end about Abraham Bryan, what he came back to, and did he get compensation from the government, and then also just closing up the war, and he ties it into Abraham Lincoln, and just does a really great job with that. But they all did a great job. But Bob, of course, Bob is great at making you cry.
Yes, he is.
And so usually because he just kicks you in the crotch, and
his delivery is fantastic.
Attack. Yeah. So anyway, we did that. Then they wanted to follow up on something with me, and so I had a second one-on-one interview after that, and that was the end of that. When is it going to air? We don't know.
No.
In November sometime, they said. But I guarantee you, the day before we're supposed to go on, India will nuke Pakistan, and it will be in the news for the next 3 weeks. So we will get bumped. Okay, so that is that with the Today Show and all of that jazz. So anyway, thank you all for coming out to that as well, because that was we had a good turnout for that, and all your beautiful faces hopefully will be on television. So now let's start talking about new things. That was our recap. Let's get into some of the new things that we are working on for the winter. The first thing is, okay, so people write me. I say at the end of the shows, if you'd like to take a tour with any of these guides, send me an email, blah, blah, blah. And people do. And sometimes they do, not in response to me saying it on the show. They just do. They're like, hey, I'm coming into town. Are any of the guides available? Probably because they've heard me say it on the show, but whatever. Yeah. So I thought, well, you know what? Why don't we act as an agent for the guides that have been on our show? Because, the guides that come on the show, they come on for free. We don't pay them to come on. They come on because they like talking about Gettysburg. Yeah. They believe that everybody should learn about it, know about it. And of course, it's good promotion for them. They're not allowed to promote themselves.
Yeah, the guides especially.
Yeah, I mean, they're not allowed to like buy advertising or a billboard or something like that, but they are allowed to come and talk, and that's good promotion for them. So I appreciate them coming on. I appreciate them coming on more than once. And they seem to really enjoy it afterwards. Like every time we end, they go, okay, that was good. Like they enjoy doing this, and it's obvious.
It seems like it.
Yeah. So I thought, well, let's try to give back a little bit. Let's act as an agent for them. It would be another revenue source for us, and it would get them more work. Mm-hmm. So we are working with a third party reservation system called Fair Harbor, and about putting together that type of thing, and that will coincide with the launch of our new website. And this is also tied in with our new logo. So a fella named Mike Stretch from Ohio, he's a listener. We didn't bump into him on the battlefield. We knew he was in town and he wanted to meet with us, and so we were heading out to East Cemetery Hill, and he happened to be there anyway. So it worked out. So Mike is a graphic designer, and he does a great job with it. And he redesigned our logo because, I mean, frankly, I hated our logo. I did it because I didn't know anybody to do it. And I can't picture these things like logos in my head. I could look at one and go, wow, that's a nice logo, but I can't start from the beginning and, Yeah. So I really just figured, honestly, I said someday someone will come out of the woodwork and say, your logo sucks. I do this for a living. Can I make a new logo for you? And basically that's Mike said it in a nicer way. He did. But that's what he said. So he did a great job with the logo. People are really loving it. I'm loving it. And
he does phenomenal work.
Yeah, he really does. And he asked, he's like, well, what about your website? He goes, I said, yeah, I'm not crazy about that either, and I don't really have the time to work it. Yeah. And he said, well, I could help you with that. And so he's going to redesign the website, make it look sleeker, make it look nicer. And when we relaunch the website with the new and improved everything on it, we're going to also have a book a tour page. Yeah. And on that page, you'll be able to go in, and how we'll work it is we'll have the guides, give us times that they want us to try to sell, and we're going to try to sell them for that. Now, I'm thinking at this point that it's going to be more like kind of the way we do it with Getty's Bike is there's, Charlie Fennell is doing a tour at, 2:00 on Tuesday the 12th. And okay, so you book Charlie Fennell. Because of all the COVID restrictions, it's got to be done caravan style. Yeah. So we figured, we're tacking on a small, basically what the visitor center does. It's a $12 fee.
Yeah, it's a service charge.
Yeah, basically. Service charge. So we're going to just do that. I might even just do it as a $10. I don't know. I'm not sure yet. We're going to see what works out for us because really it becomes a revenue generator for us after the first. Actually, yeah, no, it would be after the first car. No, yes, that is true.
After
right.
the first car
after
load,
the first car load, then
kind of money off of it.
And so that would be a way to support the guides and also support the growth of the show, because baby, we got some big ideas, and I can keep trying to play the lottery, but they tell me, one of my friends is a financial expert, and she says that's really not a good plan.
No, as it turns out, it's statistically very unlikely for either of us to win the lottery.
Yeah. So then we got to do it the old fashioned way, and then, just come up with things that people might like.
It's a real bummer.
So that would be one thing that's going to come out of all of this too. So, that's down the line though. It's not, I'm hoping by January. I don't know if that's unrealistic or not. I don't know.
No,
Mike and I have to talk about the website, but I think we could get the Fair Harbor thing set up.
Yeah, as far as the website goes, I don't know. It really ends up being whatever Mike is able to do, because again, he's doing all of this pro bono for us.
Yeah,
which is amazing.
Yeah.
But if you guys ever get a chance just to support the people that support us, Mike has a website called Heritage Depot, and he does phenomenal T-shirts, bumper stickers, that kind of stuff. And Matt and I have talked about this over the summer a bunch of times. You go into a T-shirt shop in most places in tourist-driven towns, and the T-shirt designs are kind of gaudy,
the same.
It's like nobody's bothered to update anything since the mid '90s.
You know who is good in town though? Who's got good T-shirts because they're constantly coming up with new ideas? A place called Flex and Flanagan's on Steinwater Avenue.
Yeah. They do pretty well.
Yeah. I also have my paintings for sale there.
But Mike does, we're calling them classy T-shirts.
Yeah, they are classy. There's like
they're very, very nice, very classy designs. There's not, a whole lot of busy stuff going on them. They look great. So if you get a chance, head over to Mike's website, heritagedepot.com.
Heritage-Depot.
Heritage-Depot.com. And, check out what he's got.
Yeah.
He's got some
really good stuff.
Nice,
and it's not all just, I believe it's not all just Gettysburg related, or it might be, but he doesn't have only T-shirts. My favorite thing he does these colorized photos of the monuments. He gives them flesh tone and he if they got a mustache, he makes it look like real hair.
Yeah, and you look at it, it looks like a painting, but it's really just a colorized photo of a bronze monument here. What has he got? He's got two of them right now, I think. The 111th New York, and then
12?
I think it's 1st PA Cavalry. I think it's 1st PA Cavalry, the one that's like right across the street from the angle.
Yeah, the guy kneeling.
The cavalryman taking a knee, like cavalrymen do.
God, here we go. Eric and his love of the cavalry. So that's that there with the website and all that stuff. Also, if you're on Facebook and you follow the Aspiring Licensed Battlefield Guides page, which is a great page, it's a great idea for people who think they might want to become a guide or are just interested in learning more. Pete Herman, who is the guy who runs it. He came here and met with me once, and we talked about possible ways that we could collaborate with the two groups, his group and us, tour wise and everything like that. And so we haven't spoken about anything in particular. We just kind of spitballed a lot of ideas, but there's a willingness.
We know we want to work with each other. We just don't know what that's going to look like yet.
Exactly. But it's going to be something that hopefully we can do. And not hopefully, we will do it, but hopefully it'll be something good that everybody would like to see and do. By the way, going back, if I may, to the tour ideas with the guides. Aside from just getting your basic standard battlefield tour with them through our website, we're also going to plan day-long excursions. Yeah. For example, just basically the whole battle it's like a 6 or 7 hour with a lunch break in the middle. And then maybe we'll hook up with some winery out in the county and go there for dinner if they have dinner or something. We'll make a day of it. It's not going to be cheap, but it's going to be worth it.
The numbers we've looked at, it's not going to be cheap, but it's going to be, I think it's going to be a worthwhile experience because it's a full day event, really. It's not just the tour. It's a whole package. And
we believe over here that, history should be experienced in order to be learned. And it's also, I think, very helpful to have people meet other people with a common interest. In this case, it would be the Battle of Gettysburg. You get out and you do something together. It's a social thing, but it's an educational thing. It's not just, your basic, hi, I want a tour. Okay, that'll be X amount of dollars. Okay, great. And then follow me to stop one. And then here we are. This is the Battle of Gettysburg.
It's doing,
not that they do it that way, but
it's doing two basic things. It's helping build that community, which, is something that we've kind of
wanted to do.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of our things. But it's also helping you learn about the battle because you're forming an experience that'll help your memory hold on to the things that you pick up.
Exactly.
And that's, I think Jesse's the one that said during our, what was it? We were talking about becoming battlefield guides.
Oh, yeah.
That Ask a Guide episode.
And right.
She said, you can read about the stuff at home all day, but it helps you a whole lot more if you actually go out onto the field when you're studying, because you're forming these memories that are going to help you retain that information.
It's like when I remember in high school, I think it was a science teacher. She was telling me that when you take notes by actually writing them down, it's easier to remember things because you have a physical connection to the information because you're actually writing. You're looking at the page as you form the letters. You have the muscle memory of writing the words, and it all works together to help you remember things. And it's the same principle, and that's why we do the get out of the car tours. It's it's the idea of just getting out there and getting your hands dirty and getting into the history. So we're going to do day-long things like that. And sometimes it might be something like, a trip down to Harper's Ferry. I know a guide who has got a license down there to do tours, or Antietam. Our friend Matt Borders over at the History Things podcast is a licensed guide down there. We're all about, helping people who are make a living. And we're helping people who want to learn and bring the two together and see what comes out of it. And so that's that.
Building a community and creating experiences.
That's right. There you go. So that could somehow tie in with the aspiring licensed battlefield guides and whatever. Now, the final thing is I put a post up to see if any patrons had any questions that they wanted to ask. So we'll get into that. There's only a few of them. There's 3 of them. So let's get into that right now. Bill Etzkorn says, will the 3rd Saturday of the month remain as the day for tours next season? Very good question, Bill. Probably.
Yeah, it seems like it worked out pretty well for planning purposes this year.
Yeah, I don't know why 3rd Saturday of the month. It just was an arbitrary thing, but it seems to work.
Yeah.
Because really a month is a month. So whether it's the 3rd Saturday to the 3rd Saturday or the 1st to the 1st.
Yeah, exactly.
I still have to wait the amount. It was really, for me, it was just like, I don't want to deal with having to pay my bills on the 1st and then also do a tour on the 3rd, like I'd rather just ease into it. Brennan Soukup. Sorry if I mispronounced that, Brennan. I had 2 great-great-great-grandparents. One was in the 2nd New York Light Artillery. The other was in the Pennsylvania Bucktails. I was wondering, where were their units during the Battle of Gettysburg? Okay, well, I did say a question about anything. So even though this isn't you're a Bucktails boy. So go ahead, Eric. Tell him.
It really depends on which regiment we're talking about. There's 3 regiments of Bucktails here. There's the original Bucktails, which are the 1st PA Rifles or 13th Pennsylvania Reserves or 42nd Pennsylvania Volunteers or the Canes Rifles. Just, pick a name. But they are with McCandless's brigade of the Pennsylvania Reserves, and they get onto the field on July 2nd, and they're their main action here basically starts on the north slope of Little Round Top. And then McCandless's brigade, they call it a charge. They charge across Plum Run Valley and up to the stone wall that runs along the eastern boundary of the wheat field. And that's kind of where they hold overnight of July 2nd into afternoon of July 3rd. And then after Pickett's charge, after Farnsworth's charge on the south end of the field, McCandless's brigade sweeps the wheat field. They clear the wheat field out to Stony Hill, and then the left end of the line, which includes the Bucktails, they sweep through Rose's Woods, basically onto a line between Devil's Den, which would be their left, and the Timbers Farm, which you can't see. You can go out and see part of the foundation, but if you're standing at the top of Devil's Den and you're looking west along Rose's Woods, basically out at the end of the triangular field is like a swale, and there's a little creek that runs through there. And then up another little ridge, that's where the Timbers Farm was. That's where they are at. Now, the other two regiments are the 149th and 150th PA. They're part of Stone's brigade, and they're out on the first day's field. They are on McPherson's Ridge, West McPherson's Ridge. The 150th PA facing, basically along Stone Avenue, what's Stone Avenue now, and then the 149th facing north along the Chambersburg Pike. And they get fairly slaughtered there. They lose something like 74.7% in the 149th, and the 150th loses a little bit less, but they retreat through town, and they end up day 2 and day 3. They're along the Second Corps line, more or less, where the Vermont Brigade monument is now, over by the Angle. That's where their secondary monuments are. And they did some skirmish duty out along the Emmitsburg Road on the night of the 2nd. And they take some casualties during the pre-charge bombardment, but they're not particularly involved in Pickett's charge. That's where all the Bucktail regiments are here.
Now, the part about the 2nd New York Light Artillery, I Googled them because I should have probably read the questions before asking them. I've been busy. And type in 2nd New York Light Artillery Gettysburg, nothing comes up. 1st, 3rd, not 2nd.
I don't know. I don't know if they're here. Or
I don't know either. I can't find any. But you know what? Now I'm going to do is I'm going to text Tim Smith, and hopefully he'll. Well, I did text him, I should say, and hopefully he'll answer back while we're recording this. If not, we'll get the answer to you, Brennan. Michael Lentz, he has the last question. He wants to know: do you have a plan for when you will be rolling out the $25 tier on Patreon?
Do we have a plan for anything?
I have an idea of a plan, but I wouldn't ever call anything a plan. And you know why? It's very simple. I forget, was it Eisenhower or Patton? I think it was Eisenhower. It says, no plan survives contact with the enemy. So I figured, well, let's not make a plan then. And then we don't have to worry about it. Okay, so here's the deal with that. The $25 tier. Apparently there's this thing called Discord. And a couple of people have said to me, actually, you got to get Discord associated with your Patreon. It's easier to do like the community stuff and all that jazz. And I said, okay, can you do live videos? And he said, yes. And then he showed me, and it was like a Zoom call. And that's not what I'm talking about. I want to do it more like what you would see on YouTube or Facebook. Yeah. And here's the idea. And I just have to make sure that this idea works, or can work, before I go and start the $25 tier. Because as I've learned, don't promise what you can't deliver. So $25 tier would go like this. You get all the things that all the tiers before you get, of course. one of the big differences, and again, I haven't thought this all through, or we're kind of letting it ruminate now. Ruminate, is that the right word? Letting it fester? I'm letting it fester.
Okay.
Age. What is the... it's brewing. The idea is brewing.
Yeah.
Okay,
there we go.
Okay. So the idea is brewing. One of the things I want to be able to do is when we interview someone for Patreon, we do it as a live video only for the patrons at the $25 level. So you get to watch the interview live, and then if there's a way to comment, you can comment, and then we'll ask the questions or whatever to the guest at the end of the show. Mm-hmm. Or another option would be, and this is going to be in our live versions of Ask a Guide. It's going to be in our live, modern day, what's going on in Gettysburg Today show. Phone calls. We're going to get a phone number. There's a program that we can get, or website that we can use. We'll get a phone number.
Call Miss Cleo.
You can call, that's right. Call Miss Cleo, darling. And you call in, and you can talk about, or you can ask a question directly to the guest. Then the people who are $15 or lower, or $15 or $5 level, they're still only getting the audio version of those episodes. Nothing's changing for them. So $25 going to be able to see it live and participate, as well as get the audio only recording that's, touched up with the sweetening of the sound and all that jazz. I don't know technologically if that's possible through Patreon. I haven't looked into it thoroughly yet. I don't, if they don't do it, I imagine it's something they'll eventually do, because that's just the way everything goes. But Discord, I've got a guy who, Tyler, who said that he's going to come out and help me set it up and look into it and see if we could do it. So that's just one aspect of it. And honestly, that might be enough to make up to make the difference of going up to that extra tier. But I always want to give you a little bit more if I can. So we just got to figure out other things that we could do. We've had other ideas that came through, but I'm not totally sure. See, I can't. Somebody said, well, what you should do is just like take somebody around on a free tour, but I can't do that because you've paid me through Patreon.
Yeah.
So I can't even give you a free tour, because it's really not a free tour because you're a patron.
Correct.
And I can't ask a guide to do a free tour, because then they're not getting paid and I'd have to pay them, and it just doesn't make any sense. So there's got to be some, maybe I'll let you take me out to dinner. Just kidding. But yeah, so there's going to be something else that we could do. I don't know what. There's a new thing that Patreon has where you can, they basically, you can make a t-shirt, and when someone becomes at that level or whatever, when someone becomes a patron, you can make it so that they're the ones who fulfill the order. So it's just like, I'll just design the shirt and then you get it. And then I pay for the shirt. I think I don't get the first month or something like that. So we'll see. I don't know. Also, the thing with Patreon also that is new for them is that you can become an annual member. And at first I wasn't crazy about that, because, you become an annual member. That's good that month. But then next month my income goes, it's not reliable.
Yeah, it doesn't help as far as budget planning goes.
No. We have to pretend that they're really not.
Yeah, because it's a one-time deal.
Right.
You're not going to see it again for another 12 months.
Theoretically.
Yeah.
But chances are someone will change their card and not change it, get a new card and not change it in Patreon, or decide to not want, re-up or whatever. So,
so they get counted basically as a one-time donation, more or less.
And
as far as our financials go.
Yeah. And I vacillate between not offering it or not, because I have a choice. I don't have to offer it.
Yeah.
But people do ask, they want to just pay it once and be done with it. So I kind of have it going, and we do get them in, and
we do. Yeah.
It's a nice shot in the arm, but it's not something that can be relied on as a monthly thing when we're talking about, renting a studio or something like that. Yeah. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I think. Is there anything else you could think of there, Eric?
Real quick, let's go back to the 2nd New York Artillery.
Okay.
I don't know if Tim Smith ever got back to you or not, but
nope.
I just took a look at the New York State archives, I guess.
Okay.
And it seems the 2nd Independent Battery Light Artillery from New York ceased to exist on June 13th, 63.
Oh, snap.
They wouldn't be here at all. And anybody who was a member of the battery that was not entitled to be discharged was rolled into Battery I, 1st New York Light.
Well, Brennan, I have to do this.
Oh, my God. It's back again.
All right. Come on. I'm just having a little fun here, folks. God. All right. Well, then I think that's all I can think of as far as updating you and preparing you for what's coming this year. Hey, time is freeing up for us, ladies and gentlemen. So there's going to be a lot more shows coming out. I think this is probably until Addressing Gettysburg is my full-time job and Eric's full-time job. It's probably the way this year went as far as output goes is probably how it's going to go. However, do not think that because shows are not coming out frequently or at all during a given month in the summertime or fall, that we're not doing anything. We're always one step ahead of what you're hearing. Like we're always planning for the next thing. We're looking to the next thing because this is not, we're not ready to rest on our laurels yet. Because
like right now we've got, I think 3 set up for the next 2.5 weeks, 3 interviews, and we're working on 2 more right now. So we're getting back to where people are available for content production. We're actually in a studio, so we have a place to do it now. So you should see an increase.
Oh, and here's another thing you could look forward to, ladies and gentlemen. Once we get the technology in line, we're going to do our Ask a Guides from the studio live on Facebook and YouTube. And we'll get that phone line set up so that you can call in and you can participate in that.
Working out some details with the technology right now, but I think we've got pretty much 90% of it nailed down as far as how we're going to do it.
I just got an idea from Michael Lentz's question. The phone number will only be available to the $25 tier.
Oh, sure.
So you guys get to call in when we do the show. There you go.
I like that idea.
Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so that's a second thing now to answer Michael's question. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening. Thank you for all of the great support that you've lent to us and that you continue to send in your encouragement and all your compliments and everything like that. We really do appreciate it. It invigorates us or reinvigorates us.
And honestly, we probably couldn't do what we're doing without you. So
no, we couldn't.
We'd be stuck in the weeds with old mid-90s computer microphones. You remember those god awful things?
Oh yeah, they were awful. So awful I never had them because I was like, these are terrible.
We had one.
Why?
I don't remember. I think it came with the computer.
Oh yeah. Just so that you could record yourself and laugh.
It was
at
like an old Gateway 2000. It just like came with the package.
Yeah. We don't have that, ladies and gentlemen. We have very nice microphones.
They're beautiful.
They are. See, I should have written this one down too. God, I'm sorry. These are so many false endings. To the patrons who donated to the studio cause or bought something off of our wish list for the studio, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yesterday, Eric and I were in here working on the table, and we were trying to figure out where we're going to put the cameras because, it's a huge table, but when you start putting equipment in here, it gets small very quickly.
A lot smaller.
We're like, how the hell are we going to do all this stuff? And so we went on Amazon, and I was looking at different styles of camera mounts and things like that. And I said, I just had this idea. I said, why don't I start a wish list and see if people would like to help us? Because that way we could get this stuff quicker than if we wait for me to have the money to, buy all these things. So we did, and then I put an announcement on Patreon, and literally within, what was it, 5 minutes?
Oh my God, yeah.
I mean, I think it was shorter than that. I go to, somebody asked, how can I just make a donation to you and you could put it towards whatever you need? And I said, sure. And I gave my PayPal, and like boom, right there, $50 came in. And then another person came in and said, he commented and said, I just donated to you. And then boom, the donation came in, and it was like $100-something, 125, I believe. And then a couple of other people commented that, I went into the wish list because I said, great, now we got this money. I'm going to go and I'm going to get this, that, and the other thing out of that.
Buy things that were already bought.
Right. So I go into the wish list to buy a couple of the camera mounts. We needed 4 of them, and 2 of them were already bought. Yeah. So somebody then I found a couple of other things today. I went in there, and a couple of other things have been purchased already. So, ladies and gentlemen, I said this in the comment section under that post on Patreon, but I want to say it to everybody: you really are the nicest people, and you are very supportive. And we don't take it lightly, and it is touching,
it's very
and
humbling.
It's very humbling, and when you say all these nice things, as much as we like to hear it, it makes us very uncomfortable because we don't think of ourselves as
worthy of platitudes.
Yeah, so we really appreciate this, and I don't have the words to really express my gratitude and how it makes me feel, but just know that for me to not have words to express something means it's a very strong feeling. So I appreciate that. Eric appreciates that. It's all getting us closer to our goals. Thank you very much. Good night, good morning, good day, good week. And we will look forward to a winter full of shows and interacting with you all. Thanks.
See ya.